Hello, I'm back again. I haven't done anything for a while. I've not been in my house. Long story, but I'm not going into that. What I'm doing today is I'm making a loom for a DTA ECU. The engine I'm putting into the white e30 is a Vauxhall XE that my friend's building, and he'll be using the car. So he's doing the engine. I'm sorting out an ECU and loom. So I looked at I bought the ECU, and it's a T series DTA, something like that. It's quite a basic one. And I looked into buying a loom, but they're £950, I think they were. So anyway, a friend of mine lent me his loom off his XE, the Vauxhall engine, and I've got it here and gone through it all. That's the connector that goes to the ECU. We've got shift light and what light is that? Oh, the rev counter signal. Number. These are the feeds that go in, power feed in, and then it's a relay to the fuel pump, whatever you earth. It's all pretty basic, really. Coil pack, and they're generic junior connectors, I think they're called. I think that's water temp and crank sensor. These are for the fuel injectors. Well, that's for the coil pack. Air temp sensor and throttle position sensor. So it is quite basic, but with this loom, I can pin out which connectors go where. So I've got a plug that came with my ECU, and I looked into getting all the wiring for this and the connectors, and I was up to about £170 in materials. And I thought, I've got a complete loom of a 4-cylinder BMW engine. So I've had that for a while. I'm not sure which engine it's off, but all the engines I've got looms on. So it's a spare one I had. I've made one of these looms before, and this is how I did it. So perhaps I thought I'd save it for if I needed it again. This was the same as that, apart from it was automatic, so it had a bit more wiring in it than was needed. So what I've done is I've cut all the plastic protection bits off it and pared it down to, this is all the connectors, and I've left them with as much cable as I can, so hopefully they'll all be long enough to reach where they need to go. This is the this was for the coil pack on the BMW because it was wasted spark. No, it wasn't wasted spark. It was coil on plug, I think it was. No, it wasn't. It just, yeah, it was different. So I'm doing wasted spark with the DTA. So I've got to connect. That's now going to be one of these connectors, or no, that one, the 4-port one. So I don't have a 4-port connector with this loom, so I'll have to order one of those, but they're £5. So I'll get that, but I will use the wiring that came off from the other coil pack, because I wasn't sure what size wiring to go for. So at least now I know that all the connectors will have the right size wiring on. And there is a crank sensor plug here, I think it is, which should be isolated, have braided hose earthing around it. So I might have to, maybe BMW doesn't do it, or this isn't the right plug. So I'll have to see if I've got one. Otherwise I'll just have to, I think Peugeot do the cables with the braided shroud around it. It's just so it doesn't pick up any signals from anywhere else. It's quite an important one, the crank sensor. So I can get braided hose for that. So if I have to get a braided hose and a couple of connectors, it's a lot better than buying everything new. and even though it will be new, it probably won't be as good quality as the BMW ones were from the original engine. So now I've got to strip this plastic so I can get the individual cables out, and then yeah, it looks a bit messier than it is, but everything is like individual. That's the injector cables. It'll all just sort of, because it's in a pile, looks a mess. So now what I have to do is make sure they're all the same length cables as these ones and connect them into the plug that goes into the ECU. So that's my job for now. Good news, I'm back in my house. Chuffed to bits, at least I can get on with it. It's been 6 weeks now, long story. We're getting on with the loom. What I've done is printed out the pinout for the DTA loom, and I've been putting the DTA crimps on the end. So I've got a plug that fits into the back of the ECU, and somewhere I've got the plug. Be around. I've got what I've been doing is a friend's lent me his loom. This is for a XE, which is the engine I'm making the loom for, and I've pushed the bits I don't need. These are wheel speed sensors. I don't have a speedo. Full throttle shift. Maybe one day I'll do that, but that's not essential at the moment. And I've just been making up the basic bits to get the loom so it'll go on the car and the car will get working. So this is, I think DTA actually made this loom, and they're about £950. So yeah, when you break it down into the separate bits, they're for the injectors. There's a socket, that's for the, oh no, that's not, that's for the wasted spark ignition. Throttle position sensor. These are shift light and rev counter. So that's all pretty basic. This one's throttle position switch. That's air temp sensor. And there's a water temp sensor hanging around somewhere, and that's the lambda. So I don't really need the lambda sensor, but I'll probably wire it in because it will be handy to, if you want to do closed loop mapping, which I don't intend to. But so what my job is now, well, if I show you these are the injector plugs. That's how they came off the 4-cylinder BMW. I just marked it with tape. DTA have actually marked it, shift light. But once it's on, it's on. It's I might do a better way of marking it. I don't really need to for these, because I know what they're for. So what I've done is you've got 8 wires coming out of these. The ECU sends a earth. They've got permanent power, so there's always a supply going to them, and then the ECU sends them an earth signal which makes them work. So, and they go in pairs, 1 and 4, 2 and 3. So all the power feeds I've joined into one. That's the main power feed, the big one, which is where they're all joined together. And then the earths I've joined into pairs, so I've paired them up, and then they go into their single cables, and yes, that's the 2 batch fire ones. And then you get a where's your, oh, that's the earth. Yeah, so there's power and earth, so that's all we need for that. Yeah, it's basically like that. So I'm just making it up as I go along. I did, unfortunately, this is a DTA S40 loom, and it's exactly the same plug as the T2 loom. So now I've got to change a few things around because PWM 1 is in fact just an earth that comes out, so I think you can change it to what it is. So that's going to be my fuel pump relay, because that's what they suggest. They give you you get like, they'll tell you what you should do and how you should do it. So I've got to build the loom as per this sheet, because that's T2 ECU and that's a T2 ECU. So I'll know it's all in the right place then, rather than having to do it and then reconfiguring it. There is a permanent 12 volt, which there wasn't on the S40. Anyway, this is all technical bits and pieces. So yeah, I'm going to carry on now, making up, it's the throttle position sensor, it's 3 cable, so it's power, earth and the signal back. That runs on 5 volts, so out of the ECU there's a 5 volt feed out and a sensor ground. So, and then there'll be one of these PWMs, I presume, will be or analog, could be. I'll have to read the instructions, but that will be for the signal. So yeah, so 3 wires, 3 plugs, but the sensor ground, that'll probably do the air temp, water temp. So what I'm going to do is make them all the right length as in that loom, because I know that loom fits, and then put the ends on, or join the earths, or join the powers, and just keep going through like that. Now I've got it's the plug that goes into the ECU. So what I have to do is I put all the ends on these cable pipe wires, and I have to push them into these various holes in the right place. So what I'm doing is I'm starting on the bottom row and making my way across. That way, what I tried last time was just as and when, and I'd do one here, one there, one there, and at the end I was trying to push them in the middle and it just was a nightmare. So I've labelled everything with masking tape so I can take it off afterwards. So these are all the bits that are ready for the bottom row. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I've got grounds to go in there as well. At least I can squeeze them afterwards. And all these are labelled as well. So there is quite a few bits that go to it, but it's not as complicated as it looks. When you see a loom like that, it just looks like a load of spaghetti. But when it's all in one bit, when it's all in separate bits, it's all, you know, each one as it comes. And a lot of them, like the sensors, that is a water temp sensor. So one goes into the ECU and the other one is an earth, which will join with the other sensor earths, like the air temp sensor. And yeah, there's like the injectors are powered, they've got constant power. So that is sensor earth, there, 5 volts. That takes a 5 volt feed. So that will join up with the throttle position sensor, because that takes 5 volts as well. It's all written down. When you buy the ECU, they give you a like a memory stick, and it's got all this in it, and programs to put onto your laptop to run the ECU, to load maps in and that. But unfortunately, it doesn't work on Macs. So I've just bought a second-hand laptop, and I'm waiting for it to come down. So hopefully, because I'm off to the UK to drop this ECU off along with another one for a friend, and I've got some maps that I need to load onto them first. So the guy doing the engine has got somewhere to start from. So fingers crossed the laptop turns up soon. That's it, the loom done. Whether it'll work or not, I'm sort of hopeful. I haven't put the end for the coil pack on because I don't know what coil pack's getting used. I think I've got one upstairs, so I'll go and dig it out. I think it's just a 3-point fitting like these. So I've got some more of them. Yeah, that's where it plugs into the ECU. So it doesn't look too bad now. It was a bit messed up before. And these are all earths, feeds, shift light, fuel pump relay, rev counter, stuff like that. So they'll just go to relays next to where the ECU goes. Fingers crossed it'll be all right. So it's taken me 2 evenings to do it. Yeah, it's not been too bad. I think if you just take it one piece at a time, and what I learned from last time is definitely start pushing the crimps into the plug that goes into ECU with a pattern. Start from one side and work your way along. Don't just put them everywhere, because that was a nightmare. So this worked out much better. They all went in quite well. The crimps I'm using, a bit of a mess, are these ones, which were Amazon, and they've got loads of different heads. So I tend to start with this big one and work my way down. So crimp them, they're double crimps, these DTA ones. So, but it seems to be okay. So the plug comes with the ECU. What I've had to buy is a couple of these connectors, a bit of heat shrink, loom tape. I had some left over. It's like insulation tape, but it's not sticky, so you can unravel it again afterwards. I've used a bit of wire. I've still got some left over from the BMW loom. So it's probably cost about £20, I suppose, for everything. A lot of labour. It took a long time, but well, 2 evenings. It wasn't too bad. But I think they're £950 DTA, but the DTA one will probably work. I'm gonna have to plug this in and see. I'll see if I can. I've got my car in the garage with the S40 ECU, and that's got the same plug, but it's got some slight differences on it. So I'll have to check to see that everything that is important is in the right place, and then I can try it out and see if it works. But it means pulling all the wiring off the engine, which would be a bit of a nightmare. I've pinned everything through, everything seems to be all right, so fingers crossed. I'm going to take it to England. Jonesy's building an XC, I think he's built it. He wants the ECU and loom so he can get it on the dyno and run it up. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will go well. Right, next time, see you now.